Well, for our communications class, which is small groups communication, we were assigned a project to do together. And one thing that we figured out in the very beginning was we are all very strong, independent women, and we love to get our words in. So we developed the method of the talking stick, but since we didn't have a stick, we used this carabiner. We can only talk when we have it, and that has helped us tremendously because we can all feel like we are getting our thoughts heard and not feeling like we're being interrupted and disregarded.
How we kind of came up with this event to do is that we all took a walk in the beginning before our executive meeting with Melissa, and we all started talking about common interest and resources we had. And it kind of we started talking about kids and how we all liked kids. And we started talking about how Mindy works at Play It Again Sports and how we're all pretty active individuals. And then I realized that my friend Brian is a PE teacher at Pierce Park Elementary School. So that creative walk really helped us get the juices flowing and realize the resources we had. And that's kind of how the whole project came together. Sydney in our last group was very quiet and shy, and in this time she really has shined with the video part of it, and most of us don't have any experience in videos or editing or anything like that, so it's really cool to see when someone's given an opportunity to show their skills, whether that be Kaylee doing yoga with the kids or Sydney editing the video or Katie being a leader.
When I was first given the leadership role, I knew it wouldn't be hard in this group just because we are all very strong females. And I picked every one of you, for one, because I liked your personality and because I knew that you were strong and you were going to give me ideas. I didn't want sheep that were just going to follow, and I think that you guys all definitely came through with that.
Every single one of us could take a leadership role and be completely fine with it. And I think because you knew that about us, the way you almost like delegated, you did more of like an organization role. You kept us on track, you kept us straight, but you still let us give our ideas,
Right.
which was really, really helpful, especially for us with our loud mouths and our big ideas and we get really excited when we have good ideas. And so I think what happened was you just kind of pointed us in the right direction and focused us back in, and like every once in a while if we needed someone to do something, like I'm the leader, so I'll take it on. And you did a wonderful job of keeping us not only cohesive but letting us feel like we got our ideas out.
So it's definitely something to work on from both, like not bad, but interrupting or just talk, like you said, talking, that's your culture and you had to get it in. With me, it's kind of like, I'm just
We're
more
serious. I think that's what it is. But I think that's a good thing. I think that it's a good mix. And we do have the last group as like a, in like our mind. But at the same time, I feel like that at the end of the day, it helped like Cedric, Sydney, and Rachel. Like you helped get to our goal at the end because there was difference.
Well, you were just like, hold on, let me think about this, and you sat.
Because I pushed you a little bit. I was like, well, why are you just sitting there and not talking? Like, say it, and because
I want to think about what I'm going to say before I say it.
And I think that was like kind of like shined a light when it was like, well, we're all a little bit different, and that's why we're having an issue communicating a little bit. Because I'm like, why aren't you talking? Are you pissed? Like, what's going on?
Same.
And then you're like, no, I just want to think, so I don't say anything bad, and and I think that I reflect a little bit, like, okay, I should like calm down.
It was really neat getting to work on this project with this group because a lot of us had been carried over from the second project. And so when we came into this project, we had already built a lot of group cohesion, but it was really interesting to see how we could transfer that over to Project 3 when we were actually trying to achieve a goal. And then we had a member, Kaylee, join us, and I think the biggest mistake we made was coming into Project 3 thinking that we already had that group cohesion. We didn't need to build it. So it got us, we hit the ground running, but it got us into a little bit of problems because we didn't really stop at first to take the time to reevaluate where we were as a group and what conflicts could arise and what kind of conflict we could find throughout this process. But once we finally kind of hit the brakes week in or so and really started to talk about the different conflicts, the different issues that we had come up with, a few of the internal and external constraints that we had run into. And I think once we really started to focus on that and more focus on the process, it really started to open up how we viewed working in a group as a whole.
I think one of the biggest constraints we walked into was not, at first we weren't delving into each other's resources and what we were good at. And so at first we started with this homeless idea coming up from the last group. But Kaylee joined our group and that created a whole different group dynamic. And so our first mistake was thinking that we could do the same exact thing as we did last time. I think that how we kind of overcame that constraint was the creative ideas that we came up with, taking a walk, really trying to listen to each other as hard as that might be for us sometimes.
I have a bunch of other classes, of course everyone does, but I had a issue come up with one of my final projects was, I don't know if it was organization or not paying attention, but there was a scheduling conflict and I ended up having to go take a final in the middle of our project. And as the group leader, that was a really big constraint for me because I wanted to be there, I wanted to be involved, and feeling like I was almost abandoning the project at the end was a really difficult thing for me. But everyone was really amazing about it. Nobody made me feel bad. They were willing to let me put in effort in other places, and I think that was a huge thing for me, seeing the kind of group cohesion that we had and that everyone was willing to just jump in and do their part, no matter if it was your job or not. You were going to do it, and you were going to do it right and make it a really fun day for the kids.
A lot of us are really loud, and including me, I love to talk. I can talk all day. But once we kind of sat down and talked about how we really felt and how the group dynamic worked out, and really took a step back and kind of explained, like, I'm really loud because if you don't talk in my family, you don't get a word in edgewise. Or, I'm laid back and I don't talk very much because I really like to think about what I'm going to say before I say it. Or I'm going to forget what I'm going to say if I don't say it right now. So we kind of got to discuss how the way we speak, how it affected our group dynamic, and we sat down and we talked about it, and everyone got a chance to get their word in edgewise, and it was really great, and I think that really helped our group come together into a whole and us really learn more about each other instead of just being really focused on completing the assignment. So we kind of got to take a step back and sit and listen and absorb each other as a group, and I think it really helped us in our cohesion, and it was really great and makes me like you guys a lot.
I think that a lot of times when we would interrupt each other, I just want to bring that out because it's something Melissa noticed a lot. And instead of having conflict, we just talked louder and over each other. And whoever was fastest and loudest would get their ideas heard. And that was how we dealt with conflict in the beginning. And I think that once we kind of pinpointed that and took a step back and realized nobody really felt listened when you were interrupted, I think that was when we really started to, I see the shift that Rachel pointed out, and the shift of really hearing each other when we talk and like understanding what the other one is saying and making that effort. And I think that is a huge step in respect.
For me personally, I felt like our group had a lot of conflict, and we did actually have a lot of conflict, and we didn't fight with each other, but like Melissa said, conflict isn't always yelling or being annoyed. It's that interrupting. It's a little, even if you don't say anything, but being offended when someone doesn't reply and group me. And we did have a lot of that, but I think that it was, when I'm thinking and reflecting right now, we're all really strong people, like Katie said. We're really strong women, and we all like to talk, and we all like to get our ideas heard. I mean, all of us universally, even Sydney, even Jess, who, played the quieter roles in the group, but they still did that. And I think that's why we ended up having conflict, because we were those type of people, and that's kind of viewed as a negative thing, but in reality that's the reason why our group worked. So I think it's important to kind of connect it all back full circle. Like, it's not always a bad thing to have negative aspects of like yourself in a group. I definitely learned that about myself in this group, that I'm not perfect. And but it also, I'm not perfect, but it's the reason that the group worked. Oh, that's interesting. We could talk about like, why does this, even because we have had a lot of conflict
thing, but it's
you
not
can
negative.
have we can because we
Go
did
ahead,
have
Rach.
a lot
It's all
of
you.
conflict.
A lot though? I don't think
No,
we had
I
a
think
lot.
we did, in a sense of
I can
what
talk about
conflict
it.
is
It was
defined.
like unspoken conflict, sorry.
Yeah.
As far as
Interrupts.
For how much we talk, it was unspoken conflict.
So should we send him an email what exact obstacle?
No, I said,
Or just
I think I said, so I said focusing on the endurance strength aspect of fitness will incorporate many activities depending on the equipment we will have available to us. And I put examples. But that's something that if he says, yeah, this will work, and this is what I think the obstacle would be,
You could help us out.
that's what I asked him. I said, I want,
if he has ladders, we could go to his
Yeah. and maybe
That's
he
why I
has
said
an
it's the
idea.
other one.
Yeah.
They're like a potato. They like, it doesn't have to be a potato. Stick something in between like during the post
Oh,
and then like
yeah.
drop it.
Oh, that's
into
kind of
like an
yeah,
apple
and then
or
like
orange or something.
we could like have a bunch of activities online.
We can change them all too. Make sure that will provide like free snacks and t-shirts as well. And that's what I was gonna say. Free snacks, but like if allowed.
Then put examples like cutie oranges,
Like for them to have like
water
water.
at the end. At the very end. Because they just did like physical activities with us.
So then you have
So if Brian says yes and we get approved,
Then we'll probably do it like next week.
then we can do it as fast as possible. I mean, this is pretty much, we're gonna have to go in, and then I probably can be like a liaison between what exactly we're gonna need to bring and what go on, and then we can plan it from there. But I think it's just a
We definitely
say
just
here,
have
we
to
can do it.
we definitely just have to know.
We wanted to focus on the Let's Move priority that Michelle Obama's campaign has put out to try to get children to do 60 minutes of activity every day. So we thought it would be an interesting way to get them active and get them thinking about what they're eating.
I think once we all got there, we were pretty nervous, but we set everything up and kind of talked about it. And as a group, like we really came together.
We had two setups. We had one side for yoga, and then we had another side for like a, what was it called? An obstacle course, yeah. And we like did some jumping ropes for 10 count, and then we had them run through some like hopscotch hula hoops, and we did it with them as well.
We split up in half, almost half, and half of us worked at the obstacle course, and the other half went to the yoga, and we kind of got to switch back and forth throughout the thing. And you really got to watch the kids have fun and work together, because one of the activities was like a wheelbarrow race. So every once in a while, one of us would grab the kids, their feet, and like let them wheelbarrow, and they'd like run around, and it was super fun. And I think the best part about it was not only fun for them, but it was super fun for us, and it really did make it feel like we made a difference for those kids.
And I also think that it was nice, like in my section of the yoga, that like the kids actually wanted to teach each other. Like even if it was just a couple few that were like, oh, can I teach this back bend? It was like they wanted to be involved and they wanted to be actively engaged in what we were doing. They weren't just like, oh, let's just run around and like it's just like a free day of PE kind of thing. Like they fully participated in what we were doing. Do I think that this made a super big impact? Not a huge impact, but I think that when it comes to childhood obesity and like what we were kind of basing our project off of, I think that it was important in a large scheme of things, because if little groups like us don't go and like educate kids on like how to be healthy and like how to eat healthy and like how to stay healthy without like having to go to the gym or like just being kids and playing, I think that I just think that the problem would get worse. So I think that on a small scale, we did make some sort of impact, I'm sure.
If you change just one kid's life out of the however many we had, like 50 or 60 or however many students there were, if there's one kid that's like, wow, I actually should be exercising and stretching and doing all these things, eating better, that is making a big difference in itself. I think we did make some difference, and maybe even in our own lives we made a difference. It made us more conscious about maybe some unhealthy choices we make with our snacks or stuff.
Almost every single kid that they talked to when they were doing their event had a blast, and I think that the athletic director emailed us after the fact and said anytime we want to come back, come on back, and that he was going to continue doing what was taught there as far as talking about the health, practicing yoga that Kaylee did, and that he thought that our ideas were great and the different activities that we had done was awesome. So I feel like we could have effectively changed how a school looks at food and nutrition and exercise, and how Brian, the athletic director that we worked with, actually runs his class, which I thought was really neat.
But I think what like I'm taking from this, and I think everyone's taking from this in the group, and even is that we made a change, and I learned a lot from doing it. So even if the kids, this is just another day in PE for them, or maybe one kid is like, I think I'm gonna have an orange today instead of whatever. But for me, not even on a health scale, but just learning a lot about myself and about how I come across and about how I work with others. That's probably the biggest change that was made.
We did this project and I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about group dynamic, and I learned a lot about just kind of keeping it together around kids and how a better way to communicate. And so a lot of it was measured, I think, in how we learned as a group. And the fact that we got to go teach a class and they got to learn a couple things, and they, whether they decide to eat a brownie or an orange tomorrow isn't how I'm measuring the success of the group. I think the fact that the kids had fun, the administration appreciated what we did, and that we got really positive feedback is the biggest thing that was for us.
I think that looking at that from that point of view, we learned a ton from this class as far as how to work with other people, no matter what the situation or what kind of personalities you're going to run into.
It was a great group. We weren't always on the same page, but we always got things figured out, and I just enjoyed, having fun. Being a group member and having fun and keeping things light. And, I was always ready to wheelbarrow and make everyone laugh. And have a
I
good
think
time.
this was definitely the
that's
best
why I picked
college group I've had for a group project.
Yeah.
You guys don't all have to
Agreed.
agree with me, but I think this is definitely the best group I've ever had.
Yeah.
It was
Sure.
it was so easy. It's
This
just
one
like
was
you knew you could rely on everyone.
Yeah.
It was really good.
So I think before this class, conflict I always viewed as a really negative, horrible thing. But after, working with you guys as a group, I feel like conflict is a good thing. And I would say that this is probably one of the best groups I've had in small group.
Sydney, are you getting this?
Yeah.
She just sneaked
I
the
think
video
it's
things.
all a learning experience too, but okay, so as far as that day what goes and conflict is concerned, I think that in small groups we're so used to not talking about conflict and just suppressing it, but being that we brought up conflict and we were able to talk about it and communicate in a healthy way, I think that it created trust and
I don't know, what other things would you guys say? Cohesion and like
Open.
like you were saying, like you just feel open and we just feel like we're closer as a group and that we can trust each other. So I think conflict can be viewed as like a really negative, like it's usually viewed as a negative thing, but I don't think that it is.